Sure. Okay. Welcome everyone. And my name is John Shi. Actually, I got invited to be a co-host. I'm actually a full-time employee in the IT and cybersecurity. And also I'm a student in CSU Dominica Hills. Today I'm the co-host with Yasmin. And your presenter is Mike Zyskowski. He has many years of experience in many areas. He was a network engineer, security engineer, and also advisor and technical instructor. Some of his highlight, certifications are CISA, CISM, and CISP. These are all related to security and compliance. And I'm honored to introduce you to Mike. Mike, the floor is yours now.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate being here this morning. It's for me, it's actually this afternoon. I'm based in Chicago, and by the virtue of Zoom, WebEx, whatever you want to use, we're able to meet today. So what I want to talk about is I've got a long career, as kind of indicated. I have a slide that kind of talks about that in a minute. About things that you don't look at when you have a career in cybersecurity. And it's one thing to know how to hack, and it's to configure a router or to assess a network or to do an audit. But there are other things that we kind of need to know, and it's part of how do you keep that career going. As I was preparing for this, it was kind of fun because I had to stop and look back, and I realized I have been working with computers since I was in high school, which was over 40 years ago, and actually I'm about to celebrate my 50th class reunion, graduation from high school. So I've been kind of around cybersecurity for a number of years, and I've managed to stay in the career field more or less. So anyway, so talking about that and talking about what's going on, and I threw an agenda together. It's like who I am, how did I get to where I am today? And it was a kind of a screwy path. I got a kick out of listening to Bob Kalka's talk earlier this morning. He has a degree in computer science or in computers, and then got a degree in social psychology. I was upside down. My degree is in applied psychology and applied sociologies, and my master's is in computer information network security. So we come at this field from a lot of different directions, and that's part of how we get going. Anyway, so that's the agenda, who you are and how do you get to my neighborhood. And then I really want this to be interactive. So if you have a question, Yasmin is watching for me because I can't watching. I multitask, but not real well. And so she's going to be, if you have a question, raise your hand and ask her, get her, and she'll get my attention and we'll answer the questions. We're a little Q&A at the end and a little wrap up. And that's, kind of where I'm at today. So kind of moving on to this. This is my hokey slide, guys. All right. My apologies to Star Wars and all that, but that's my hokey slide. John kind of took part of my bio slide here and started, going through it. And yeah, I've done a lot of things. What we don't talk about on this slide is this is my career slide. It doesn't talk about the other things that I do. Is I happen to like, playing music. I played the guitar for over 40 years now. I like photography. So, there are other assets and other facets to my career and to my life that make me what I am. I just don't sit at a desk all day long and write code. I've written code. I've done audits. I've done, you pick a topic, I've done it. I also have done incident response, but not incident response in a cyber case. When I was in high school as a member of the National Ski Patrol, a junior member. So we did, we did triage on the Hill, we brought victims down. So, we responded, we reacted, we took care of, we processed that person. I do incident response today or a portion of it with ham radio or amateur radio, which I'm an amateur radio operator. I have a little story here that when we first introduced this, they had my name spelled wrong, and I have to admit I'm going on holiday in about a month, and I've applied for a guest operator license in another country, and they spelled my name wrong. So it's not something that it just happens. Zyskowski is my last name. Most people refer to me as Mike Z. because it just makes it easier for them to talk to me. So that's kind of part of where I am. But who I am, this is kind of the summary sort of stuff. And you know, who I am and how did I get here? So I have a broad-based education. I have a liberal arts degree. My technical name is Management of Human Resources, really applied psychology, applied sociology, organizational dynamics kind of thing. My master's is in information system security. And I've taken a ton of technical classes. When cloud started getting to be a thing, it took cloud classes. When you know, I've taken Python, continue to take different programming language classes. You have to keep evolving your education. And some of what I'm going to talk about later on, I talk about in the beginning, and it kind of goes back and forth. Certifications, they're kind of important to you for maybe resume filters, but they're also sometimes, depending upon who you're talking to, they give you a little credibility to start up front. Certified Information Services Security Professional, Certified Information System Auditor, Certified Information System Manager, and Security Plus. I have other certifications. I will tell you the trap in certifications. They all require continuing professional education. So just because you graduated from college in June this year or whenever you're going to graduate, doesn't mean your education stops. Your education continues, and it will continue for the rest of your life, hopefully. You know, mentoring is another area that I looked into, and I really have a portion of. At one point I thought I wanted to be a CPA, and so I sought out, you know, a certified public accountant that I respected. And I booked some time on his calendar, and I went out and I talked to him. And we talked for probably about an hour. And in that conversation, he asked me a lot of serious questions. And he said, well, you know, maybe you're not the right person for this field. Let me tell you why. So, and I appreciated that conversation because it got me into this career field deeper than I'd already been. So, you know, choosing a mentor is a serious commitment on the mentor's part, or on your choosing to ask is a serious commitment. Getting the mentor to take you on is a serious commitment on their part. Don't do this lightly, you know, because you're asking them of their time, their life, their career, and their advice. You know, and the best part is you can be a mentor on one side, and you can mentor somebody else, because you can bring other people up in the career. I like the fact that there's a lot of young people coming into this career field today. I'm at the tail end of the career, but I'm still going strong. You know, and that's my point here was too, that you can get a mentor who's older, you can get a mentor that's younger. There are a lot of smart people out there that are younger than you potentially. But just because they're younger doesn't mean that they don't know more, that they can't help you with your career. The other part is kind of, I think, an interesting thing going on here. And networking is not connecting routers and switches and things like that. Networking, in this case, I'm talking about the physical connections you make with other people. I think it's cool that CSU has, you know, the cybersecurity club, because this is your first step in networking in many cases. You're making connections with people today who will possibly serve you into the future in your career. I have a friend, he's a mentor, he's a mentee, that we have been together in conversations and networking for over 20 years. Now that's a long time if you stop and think about it. Some of you may only be that old, but it's a long time. And we continue our friendship and our business relationship and our friendship to this day. What it really, it's not just about your industry either, because you need to make network connections outside of it. I have networking connections within other organizations, within some musicians I know, with radio people that I know. It just depends, and they all will help you somehow build a piece of your career. Just because I used to shingle roofs when I was in college, making money to further my education, doesn't mean that it hasn't played me in some way in talking to a construction company, That knowledge kind of has helped. And the other important thing here, and this is what I always laugh at, you can tell if somebody's in your network. You can tell if they're in your network and they're looking for a job if you haven't heard from them in like 10 years and all of a sudden you get a phone call or an email, because I know instantaneously that when I get that phone call or email from somebody I haven't talked to in 10 years, they're looking for a job. And jobs in this field today are not scarce. They're, in fact, we have what we refer to as negative unemployment. It's almost virtually impossible to get laid off from one job and not be able to go to the next. So this is something that, as far as the InfoSec career is concerned, and I know Bob, I think last year talked about this. I talked about it because I think it's great to be in this field, and kind of let's see. I see a question up there. I'll get to that in just a second. It's a great place to start. And I think maybe that kind of leads me into my next slide possibly here. So let's just go ahead and bring that up. And I'm not trying to give you death by PowerPoint, by the way, because I hate that. Most of what I do is talk. I use a PowerPoint slide when I go off on a tangent to get me back onto the map. So I see a question here. Where would you start at? What position to enter cybersecurity? Most companies today are hiring at entry-level positions. My company hires, and I have a link on the slide here to our careers page and to the Dell Technologies career page, because the company I work for is a Dell Technologies company. Sometimes you have to start just by being a customer services person. You're meeting with clients and helping them respond to problems and answers. You can then build and learn from the inside. So we have career pathing for a lot of our people. And so I guess it's just get involved. If you can't get a job per se with a cybersecurity company, look at the organizations that you maybe belong to. Maybe it's a church, maybe it's a school, maybe it's something else that maybe needs some IT help. And that's where you can start that cybersecurity career, because that's all important for people to demonstrate that, yes, I'm interested and yes, I'm committed. You just don't walk in and say, I want to be an incident responder, or I want to be an adversarial tester. We have an interesting title for that in our company. The team is called SWAG, SecureWorks Adversarial Group. And they do a lot of really interesting things. So while you're enjoying, Toro Hack here, think about hacking a helicopter or thinking about hacking things like that. We have people that do that today, and they do it because they've built up over their careers and gained knowledge in a lot of other different areas. They don't only hack, helicopters, PCs, there's phone systems, there's any number of things that you can get your way on. So Nathaniel, I hope that answered your question. You start by just getting in the door, because most companies have enough training programs and things that give you a place to start. And it's really the entry level, it's a point too that I have up here, is that it's entry level work. Get in the door. Once you get in the door, you can go anywhere. We've hired people who didn't really know a whole lot about cybersecurity. I know because I was a technical trainer for a while, and they are now managers of they're managing a vulnerability management team. So you can go anywhere within this industry. The job prospects are excellent. I have a note here in my notes that Frost & Sullivan, 1.8 million InfoSec workers are going to be needed in 2022. 1.8 million people. That's why we talk about negative unemployment today. Upward mobility, that's again that part of the get in and get going up. There's a lot of different places you can be. You can start as like I said, a customer services person. You can end up as a network engineer or a network architect. You could end up as an auditor. Auditors, pay their dues. It's part of it's paying your dues. You don't get to be the top dog just by saying, I want to be the top dog. Well, unless you own the company, and then of course I guess you could be the top dog right from that start. But it's a great place to roll, because mobility is very much upward. Starting pay, really kind of cool part here. Starting pay is $65K a year, average, kind of an average. It ranges anywhere from about 45,000 to 70 or 80,000. depends on the skill set that you bring to the table. If you are really good and you can demonstrate your ability to do adversarial testing, to do hacking, penetration testing, if you will, you could probably make a little more money and then keep advancing your career. So, you know, it's entirely possible to grow that, you know, and portability is really kind of cool. I work from home. I'm a remote worker. I have actually in my IT security career, with the exception of a year and a half, I have worked from home. I've been a teleworker for 20 years. Now, that can be a little daunting at times because you do have to develop this other part about don't be the guy stuck in the room and not doing anything. You need to be able to get out and do other things. So, you know, develop some outside work, not outside work so much, but outside hobbies, or at least go out for a walk once a day. You know, I do. I walk probably anywhere from 2 to 3 miles a day just to get out of the house and not be in my office. This field is not just for nerds. You know, it's funny how people come at this career. One of the smartest programmers that I knew was an art history major. Yet he was responsible for programming, I'm giving my age here, an IBM System Series 36. You know, that's what his job was. He was a programmer for that. You know, you can work in any sector. That's the other part. You want to work in health, work in health. You want to work in finance, work in finance. You can do just about any career area. Oh, somebody says they can't hear. Is it me? Did I mute?
I'll try to fix that right now. I'll send them a message.
Some people can, some people can't. I apologize. This is getting recorded for those of you who have to go and pick it up later on. I wish I had. I wish I could solve that problem. It's common. But you can work in any sector. You don't have to be in that area. You know, you're always learning something new. You know, I have in my career, and somewhere I have a note on this, but I have probably taken some kind of seminar or college class over the past since I got out of high school, probably almost 90% of the time. I've either taken a college class, some of it was working on my degree, but I have taken classes in art. I've taken classes in music. You know, I'm sorry, I was reading the notes here. I've taken things that interest me, and I've also taken things that further my career. And I invest in my own career. I don't always make the company pay for my classes. I've taken classes before that I paid for out of my own pocket. So, you know, be willing to invest in yourself. That's another thing about, you know, the unhidden truth or the untold truths, is be willing to invest in yourself. Some other people like InfoSec because you're doing something for the greater good. You know, you're stopping the bad people from doing bad things. That's really great. I find the job very highly satisfying. I like doing what I'm doing. You know, I enjoy helping my clients further their security, their security practices, and further securing their networks. So, you know, it's a fun job. A couple of links down here. I actually, this is not information that I invented. There's a link right down here in the corner. If my mouse will cooperate, which is not, where I got this information. Over here in the lower right-hand corner, a link to the SecureWorks and Dell careers pages. So, you know, you don't have to come into cybersecurity by coming in directly into cybersecurity. You can kind of wiggle your way in the back door through IT. It's always, you need the IT knowledge in many cases to further that career. I'm not seeing too many questions. Anybody have another question? Any? Please?
Usually the questions they're asking is regarding the recording.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So I'm trying to let them know that they'll be able to access it after.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, this to me is an interactive session. You know, I can talk for an hour. I used to tell the account managers that I work for, hey, great, passing the Sec Plus is a great way to go. It's a first step. I'll come back to that in just a second. Matter of fact, and kind of give you my thoughts on some of those. We'll come to that. We'll come to those security questions in a second. I like this career. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Kind of moving on to this one slide that I have here is, who are you and where are you? You're a student, or you might be an interested non-student. You might not be interested in, you might be interested in this field, but you're not a student today. I imagine most at this particular event are. You're just starting a career in cybersecurity. You're growing a career in cybersecurity. When I hear, I got my bachelor's degree in management of human resources. I lie a little bit because I actually started out to be a high school math teacher. And so I actually had a SIM or a STEM background, but I ended up finishing in that area and then going on to getting a master's in information security. You might be a highly technical IT person, and maybe you want a career in cybersecurity. I mean, there's a lot of places where we all come from. You might be a career changer. There's a lot of that going on. Let's see. How much knowledge in cyber do you need to become a network engineer? I like to configure systems. So I'm taking a couple of questions over here in the chat, and the first one, just passed a Sec Plus test. That is a great technical place to start. It is probably, it indicates to anybody that you're coming into to looking for a job that says, I have an interest in security. I've done at least something to filter myself against it. I have some proof. What's the next career step? What's the next level of certification? Well, that's going to depend on what you want to do. You want to get into cloud? I would look at, cloud certifications through AWS or through Google or through Azure. If you really want to be if you want to be an ethical hacker, start taking those programming classes and start taking those classes that, you want to learn more about how do I get into the intricacies of applications and getting into networks. There's if you want to get into application security, learn your languages, please start using secure coding practices yourself when you're writing your code, but also at the same time, develop your language skills, work with, people that are working on applications. The more you learn about applications, usually an application security tester, a pen tester for web app security, has 10, 15 years of experience in some cases. Doesn't mean that you have to start out that way, but they ended up moving from that over to security after 10 or 15 years. Get good at your area, and then you can start applying security knowledge. It's fun because if you start applying your security knowledge from the beginning, you start to develop that mentality about coding. You develop that mentality about authentication, all the things that Bob talked about. Let's see, with any coding languages once you get involved with it. So question here, how much knowledge on cyber do you need to become a network engineer? I'm going to give you the big secret about titles. They're kind of relative. It depends on what the company wants to call you. In some cases, you get a title because of a pay band. But if you have the basic understanding of TCP/IP, how a packet moves through the network, you can start to move on to different products. You can move into different areas. Product knowledge initially is going to be very important. So you might want to concentrate on being a Cisco person or a Juniper person or a Palo Alto person. We're talking about firewalls, but learning that basic networking structure, it doesn't take long to move your way through it. We took one of our guys, somebody asked about, any careers that in cybersecurity that help with language, or how do you start? And one of the ways that I talked to, we brought this guy in, he was on our client success or client services team. We brought him into security engineering. Now he was network security savvy, but he wasn't engineering savvy. And so we did a lot of ride-alongs. We, sat on a lot of meetings with him. We made him lead the meetings though. There's nothing more important than going out and doing as you start to build that career. In other words, don't be afraid to take the front seat. Reference to those of you who've ever flown it. I've never flown a jet, but that's what they refer to the guy in the front that actually controls the jet. That's the front seat. So, don't be afraid to take the front seat, and don't be afraid to have the conversation. Ask questions. That's the biggest thing, is asking questions, which I'm getting a couple, but I'm not getting a lot. So, please ask questions. It's how, and as far as, what's the cybersecurity career opportunities help you with coding languages? Yeah, I think we keep adding languages. We keep changing languages. My first language, okay, guys, this is my age, was Fortran. All right, formula translation, really old language. We used to punch cards and then feed them into a precompiler and then run them on another system. I'm now trying to learn Python, just because I need another language to be able to communicate with people. And some of the things that we do, we make API calls, application programming interface calls, into our company's application to pull information out. So Python is a quick way to do it. So I don't know if that, Natasha, if that kind of answers the question, but almost any career in cybersecurity will help you build other language skills. But you've got to also want to add that language. Let's see, how do you get to my neighborhood? I guess that, and I've been talking about that all the way along here. Education. This phrase, see one, do one, teach one. I had an opportunity to work with the American College of Surgeons, and their philosophy in training surgeons is to have that surgeon see one surgical operation, do one surgical operation, and then teach one surgical operation. Now, if you stop and think about when you learn something, if you can teach it to somebody else, you actually know it better than you think you do. And that helps you build your own skills. One of the reasons I enjoy teaching is because it makes me smarter. Doesn't necessarily make my students smarter, although I hope they become smarter as part of the process, but it makes me smarter. It makes me a better person, so I learn more. I kind of like the idea of a broad education. You can't be, a focused, having a STEM education is great, but don't forget some of the liberal arts. You're going to need to know how to write, to speak. Maybe this looks natural to you, and I do this all the time, and I talk to people all the time. I still get a little butterfly in my stomach every time I have to get up in front of a crowd of people and talk. But it's important to be able to do that and to articulate your ideas to other people. The other thing in this case, and this is something I got when I was a teaching assistant, was please learn how to write. Because in many cases, you're going to have to put your ideas on paper. And that means spelling correctly, using spell checkers and punctuation checkers and things like that. One of the best things that I had to do was write a lot of papers when I was working on my master's degree. It just became that important for me to understand, how to communicate my ideas clearly, succinctly, and get them in front of people. You write a business case, you may have to present something to a client, you may have to put together a presentation. All of these things are things that you have to do. So understand that. Certifications, some of you talked about, somebody just said SEC Plus. CISSP, I'll talk, this is where I'll kind of give that my view on those, the certifications I have. CISSP I got 20 years ago. In 20 years ago, it was kind of the high school diploma for the security field. It gave you a language, and it gave you a common language with the people that you were talking to. So when I said incident, everybody knew what an incident was as opposed to an event. And it gave us a way to have that knowledge. CISA, Certified Information Security Auditor. Again, kind of learning that sort of thing about how do I check and validate my system. Bob used the term trust but verify, or indirectly he said the same thing. But an auditor is there to look at a system and make sure that, if you say you're doing something, to make sure that you are doing it. Provide me proof. We use this phrase called artifacts. Show me. The CISM, more of a manager's degree, really, or a manager's certification. This is where you're leading into, you're getting more into governance kind of opportunities with an organization. The SEC Plus I passed. I was kind of upside down. I CISSP, CISA, CISM. As part of my technical training thing, we were investigating SEC Plus, and So I actually went and took the class and then took the exam and passed it. But it's a great, I think Sec Plus is a great starting point for people because it's more technical. And if you're starting in the lower levels in the early stages of a career, you have to be more technical. I work probably more at a governance level now with clients, building programs as opposed to configuring the firewall. I can talk about those things. I still have my chops as doing that. I go all the way back in my cybersecurity career to sitting in my office, rewiring a keyboard because the chip in the keyboard wasn't compatible with the Novell operating system I was trying to install on my computer. Now that's low-level tech, but you can build a career doing a lot of that. But Sec Plus is a great place to go. A Plus, if you don't know a lot about the technology, move on to Sec Plus, and there's a couple other certifications beyond that. I will tell you that certifications are a trap. You have to pay maintenance fees every year, and you also have to do continuing professional education. That's another reason why I've probably taken a class or a seminar or something every year for the past 20 or 30 years. Mentoring. Seek out a trusted advisor as a mentor. Go to somebody who you like or trust. Or come to somebody. When I first started with Novell, I found a guy at the University of Michigan, and I bought him lunch, and I spent about a half a day with him. And he gave me a lot of great advice and helped me learn and build and where to go and learn and build more. A mentor is there to provide guidance for you, to challenge you to ask questions. Remember my CPA that I first talked to that kind of got me out of being going down that path as far as certified public audit. For networking, student organizations, you guys are in them now. A lot of you are in it, but there's other non-IT organizations. So network within a radio club, network within any other organization. There's some national associations, ISACA, which sponsors the CISA and CISM, the Information Security Audit and Control Association, ISC Squared is another one. There are others, but seek them out. You don't have to have the certification to belong to the organization, and belonging to the organization gets you access to some of those people and some of those papers. It's a great way to go.
Sorry to interrupt, but Armin has a question.
Armin, yes, please.
Hey guys, good morning everyone, and I appreciate for this opportunity, especially this is hi Mike, hi Yasmin, hi John, hi everyone. So first of all, I appreciate you are here and you share your time with us, especially your great knowledge. But this is a direction for all of us for the cybersecurity major. I'm a cybersecurity major and master. John is the master techie for cybersecurity, and no, that's the fact. So, but all of us are working on careers, and all of us want to work in this career. And also, my recommendation for everyone is a certification. But one thing I always recommend, and everyone recommend to me, especially my mentor, is the basic of certification, which is the Security Plus, and also with the kind of direction, for example, for ISC2, which is the CISSP, or CAS Plus is the CompTIA. But you are one who are doing all these actually in industry. We want to get your direction. We want to work in cybersecurity. And this is also my idea is, I want to make sure that anytime I want to get to the interview, I don't want to hear no answer. Anytime I want to apply, I want to apply with the fully knowledge and fully eligibilities for getting to the career. So what is your exact ideas about the system analysis position? Because cybersecurity has many fields. It has the SOC, it has the incident response, it has the asset protection, it has the system analysis. It's not just the one. It's not I say I want to get to cybersecurity. No, cybersecurity has many fields. And also, what is your idea about that? I love system analysis, especially these days. it's the hot topic and everyone needs that, especially for the loss of hacking and intrusions happen from many other countries to our country. And this is I think so. Also, I appreciate, give me your opinion. What is the best topic and what's the best position or just is the hot topic these days? And for that position, what is your recommendation for certification? Because this is my idea. 50% of the career is the degree of the, for example, master degree. And also the other 50% is the experience or the knowledge we learn from the certifications. This is my idea.
Yeah, I'm sorry about my would you mind to summarize? Do you want to ask a question based on the entry-level position or the mid-level position? That way Mike can answer very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like more entry-level, or you're looking for mid-level?
Okay.
Different level, right?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense for everyone. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I want to just ask you, what is your ideas about the certifications, for example, for some specific positions in cybersecurity?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sec Plus is a good way to get, to demonstrate your technical chops. CISSP may be a little, it depends on where you're trying to enter into. I look at CISSP more as a consultant certification or a manager certification. There are security administrator. I can't remember the organization that does Sec Plus has a security administrator's certification, and that again demonstrates that skill set. How do you get into a company? I'm going to go back to this topic that I pointed out here: networking. Start looking out at, go to things like become involved with InfraGard, which is an FBI thing. You can become a member of InfraGard, and you're going to connect with people who are actually in the industry doing it. INFRAGARD, I believe. They have a website you can apply. You have to go through a vetting process, but there's a great place to meet people who are working in that career field. ISC Squared has many chapters in the area. There probably is a Los Angeles chapter. You can go on iscsquared.org, isc2.org, look on their website, try to find a local chapter. How do you get in? I'm giving you the how do you get in? How do you make that connection? Because blindly setting on a resume, I'm going to be honest with you, it kind of does and doesn't work sometimes. It's kind of like winning the lottery when you get a resume that's accepted that way. But if somebody that knows you, that you've met, brings that resume into the organization and says, hey, I talked to this guy at an ISA meeting, or I talked to this guy at an ISACA meeting, or this gal or guy is coming out of college this year, they're graduating. This is somebody that I think we should talk to, and getting them to hand your resume in. Nothing beats a referral. Nothing beats a referral. So, start networking within those organizations. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, exactly. So, because this is the very important starts, because as long as you mentioned the best point and the most important point, as long as also I have a 20 certification and I don't have any networking, it means nothing. That's the important thing. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your response.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. I will tell you, I did things upside down. I've been a CISSP, CISA, CISM for over 20 years. When I started my master's, I had already had those certifications. In fact, I had the good fortune to meet a recently minted PhD, a doctoral person with a doctorate in security. And she kind of mentioned to me, she said, you've got a lot of experience. You should really go get a CISSP. And I kind of looked at her and I said, yeah, I got it already. She said, well, great. How about CISA? Yeah, I got it already. And she said, what about CIS? And because her her sponsor for most of her money for her scholarships for her PhD came from ISACA. And that's the other thing, is belonging to those organizations gets you access to money to go on to your career. So get involved with those organizations, because those are people that are working in the career field. InfraGard, great thing. You really learn some really cool stuff by becoming involved with InfraGard, because they have and share a lot of threat intelligence. So that's a great question, by the way. Thank you. I'm going to kind of speed through this because I'm watching my time and I know I'm running out of time, which I always do. So let me hit a couple of the quick topics here, and then we'll try to take a few more. Education, I've talked about this already. I will make this slide deck available to Yasmin, and you guys can have it because there's links in here. Mentoring, it's seek out somebody knowledgeable. Go look and talk to them. Networking, networking, I'm going to tell you one thing about networking. Networking isn't a contest to see how many LinkedIn friends you can get. That's not what it's about. Networking is about making those connections and having those mentoring discussions with your peers. They're going to help you build your career. They're going to help you when it comes time to say, I'm stuck here. What do you think I should do? It's a place you can go to validate an idea or even brainstorm a problem. I've, in many cases, picked up the phone and talked to friends and said, hey, I need some help with this. This is what I'm thinking. Let's take this forward. Speaking of this is what I'm thinking things, one piece of career advice. Never go to a manager with a question, with a problem that you don't have some kind of answer for. And by that, I mean, don't go, hey, I can't fix this. Go, I've done this and this and this and this and this. I think I need to do this next, but I want to validate it. So ask that, when you ever go with a problem, come with an answer. Even if it's silly, it might spark something. We've been doing the talking here, so I'm not going to go with that. My contact information is here. Please feel free to drop me a line. I'm more than happy to take an email. I may not get back to you right away, but I will try. There's some other links in here. I put some links in for SecureWorks. We publish a lot of great stuff. If you want to learn more about security, there's, when Log4j came out, we were running webinars for our clients. You can follow our blogs. Dell Corporation, Dell, even though I work for a Dell subsidiary, a Dell Technologies company, Dell has a whole cybersecurity practice also. So if you want to do cloud, they've got cloud stuff. So there's another area to go into. And then not just Dell. I'm going to advertise for my family, obviously, but this is a great place to go. I put the ISACA link in there, the ISACA IC squared links, and SANS. SANS has a lot of great information and a lot of great programs too. We usually used to run our analysts. Somebody asked about the analyst field. We used to run our analysts through one of the beginning SANS classes just because it would give them the ability to look critically at data. And that's the whole thing about being an analyst, is having a curiosity, willing to follow a path or a trigger, and then moving on. So I am coming up here against my 45 minutes. Anybody else have any other questions that they want to ask in the last 2 minutes?
It might be Diraj has a question. I think he want to talk, I think.
Yes, may I?
Sure.
Yeah, thanks everyone. And thank you, Mike, for your time. It was really great hearing everything. So I just wanted to stay a little updated and listen to your thoughts on this so-called metaverse, because that's like, everything being a digital transformation of yours. So what would be the implications of InfoSec or CyberSec in the upcoming days, wherein everyone's identity, you never know till what extent the personal data can also be, implemented. And I hear rumors about, people doing real estate over there and whatnot, right? So, I see a lot of scope for this field, but I'm not sure if there's something that's being started upon, and that really interests me. So if at all there's, I would like to hear some thoughts on yours about how InfoSec or the CyberSec would be, implicable in this kind of scenario.
Well, I haven't thought about that much. I'm not a big, I'm not a huge social media person. Part of it just because I don't trust anybody. So, which is another reason why I say it's not about getting how many friends can you get in LinkedIn. But my thoughts are, this from a cybersecurity perspective, there are a lot of things going on in that area that deserve to be looked at and investigated. You're right, privacy is a huge issue. California recognized it with the
GDPR.
the Privacy Act.
Yeah.
And that by the way, that's a whole nother subset of security. If you want to get into privacy, that's another great area to start to get into in practice. I guess I would challenge you with starting to do some of your own investigation. This sounds like if you're working on your master's, fine, this might be your PhD paper. There are, a lot of areas. My opinion, I'm again not a big person when it comes to social media. It's a personal choice. Some people get after me and say, "Well, how come you're not up on Instagram or this or that or anything else?" And I go, I don't. I have Facebook because my niece publishes pictures of my nephew, and I get pictures from my in-laws and things like that. But I probably read it more than I do participate in it. But there's a lot of implications to what you point out. People selling real estate. Bob Kalka talked about this zero trust. Treat it with zero trust. You don't know if that person that looks like Yasmin, I'm sorry, I'm going to pick on you here, isn't actually John. So the idea here is that if you're going to do those kind of transactions, if you're going to participate in those kind of things, really do deep verification of the people that you're working with. I think it's a challenging world. It's an interesting world, but yeah, it's got a lot of security flaws and potential for security in it. So I don't know if I answered your question or if I ducked the issue, but that's kind of my view on it.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Definitely, wanted to hear your perspective also from your experience. So I guess that is helpful too.
Yeah, like I said, security to me has been part of a 40-year career in IT. I started back in 1980 selling TRS-80 computers, and some of you probably weren't even born then. But somebody's nodding. Yeah, I wasn't. I'll share with you one other fact before we get out of here. If you want to get an idea how old I am, the first Fortran program was compiled on the day I was born. So if I'll give you a challenge, you want to do some hacking, you want to do some social hacking, figure that out. There's no prize for it, by the way. It's just if you go look it up, you'll find it. But we share the same birthday. I have, unless you've got some more questions, I will give back my time. I mean, I'm actually over time.
Okay. There were 2 more questions in the chat. It was from Elizabeth and Joshua, but we are over time. Is there any way they could contact you, like through email, and ask you those questions?
Well, that would be like where I put my email address down. So yes, feel free to give me a contact. I'm sorry I missed it. I missed them in the chat. Does it include avionics testing such as GPS, ACARS, MODES, tag? You know what? Anything that connect via IP, to answer that question, Lewis, yeah, it can. It can. Like I said, we hacked a helicopter. It was kind of an interesting challenge. Our swag guys love that kind of challenge. Cybersecurity engineer and network engineer are different. Yeah, Nathan, you're absolutely right. A network engineer usually is involved in the interconnectivity of the network, and a cybersecurity engineer is usually involved with the defense and protection of that network. And let me see. Change from a career to another is difficult. How can you get recognized to other companies beyond certifications? Again, networking will probably help you get there more than anything else. Jorge, it's hard to shift careers. It's harder when you're older, especially, but when you're younger, it's a lot easier. Use the networking connections that you have. CASB Plus versus CISSP. CISSP really is more about consulting, in my opinion, and the CISP Plus it's more of a technical working kind of thing. Although it's kind of funny. I went and took a beta of I think that test in the certified practitioner test, and I didn't study for it. I was a part of a control group for it to see how effective we thought it was. Now, mind you, when I went and took that particular test, I'd been in this industry for 15 years, and so I had a lot of knowledge. I'd done a lot of the things that were involved there. I think they're both valid. I think they're, it's what can you start? Keep in mind, CISSP requires 6 years of verifiable experience. So that's something that you don't have to have with the other one. Did I catch all the questions?
I believe so, yes. So we're gonna start wrapping up this session. You guys are free to go to any other session. Thank you, Mike, for your great presentation. It was very insightful. I did learn a lot. I believe others also learned about your presentation, and he left his contact information, so feel free to message him. And yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording right now, and it's gonna be uploaded on the YouTube. So if you missed the beginning of the session, you'll be able to go back and look at it.
Y'all have a great conference. Thank you very much for inviting me. I had a lot of fun with this. If you're interested